Why is my tool ribbed? That tool, okay, this tool here. This Stanley Bailey number 5 Jack Plane. Yes, it's ribbed, it is, yeah. The missus will be excited, she will, I tell her that. But no, it would be a misunderstanding. You see, these Stanleys, such as the Stanley Bailey number 5 Jack Plane, has these additional these additions there, like a Y shape in the sole of the casting, but also behind the adjuster knob here, it's also in the sole there. A bit like some of these Chinese hand planes, such as this Axminster one, which has this little reinforcing rib there, and it's got one at the back here as well. So why are they there? Now, you might think to yourself, well, it's a good thing, isn't it? It's a bit of reinforcement, but it's a sign. It was a sign that the quality of these planes were going downhill. They really were. Now, you see, in 1937, it's right in my head now, Chapman was, I believe they were bought out by Stanley. They started producing Stanley hand planes and tools, what have you, here actually in Sheffield. You know, not here in France, but in Sheffield, UK. I keep forgetting I'm in France. Anyway, you see, the earlier Stanleys, such as this Stanley hand plane, it's also an English one, and this is a wartime effort. I've shown you this before. I've also done a complete renovation of it as well, with new totes and knobs and stuff, because it needed it. And it's the one with a little bakelite or hard plastic kind of adjuster screw on it. And I actually really like this plane. It's really nice to use. But that isn't that heavy. This more modern incarnation here, which I'm not sure what the age is or type, it's one of the later UK ones, post 1972, Stanley Bailey, which does have those ribs, like for instance that Y in the back here, whereas this one doesn't have it. And there's a reason why they added them. Now, the thing is, you see, there's two types of cast iron. You've got grey cast, you've got ductile cast iron. And the thing with the ductile is, it's all about the graphite and how it is in the actual iron through the process of them, doing the casting, what have you. The ductile, the graphite is spherical, and grey cast, which most of these hand planes are flake. And the problem with it is you can get voids and what have you in the cast iron. Now, the thing is, there's a process that is supposed to be done over a period of time during its manufacture that limited the movement in that hand plane. Now, I've had a situation in the past, a long time ago, I renovated a hand plane. And, well, I decided that I wanted to use it again. I realised, hang on, that isn't flat. I'm sure I flattened the sole on that plane, but unfortunately it was no longer flat. But how can that be? It's cast iron. Cast iron doesn't move, does it? Well, actually it does. You see, during the actual process of forging these cast iron soles, the core of the actual casting is hot, stays hot for longer. And it gets to a period of time when they can start machining it, all right? But there's a process that should be done, which should be distressed and seasoned, a bit like you would. Now, think of a piece of wood. When you cut a piece of wood, it has grain, and there's a board, say, that wide, and you rip down the middle, you might have one big over that way, and one big over that way, or it might pinch the saw blade, that's why you have the riving knife. Well, think of that being like your cast iron, this is an analogy, by the way, a cast iron hand plane. You start flattening the sole again, and all of a sudden, it seems to, after a period of time, it goes out of true again, or it goes sunken. Like I say, usually in this area here. Now, the thing is, you see, it's releasing tension. That's no good reason to have the ribbed. Anyway, what they did, you see, post 1972, they started adding these ribs into the actual sole. And the reason why they did that was to avoid the process. A process, so they could actually make these planes cheaper. Now, what was that process? Put it like this, it was a little bit, how to put it, but Eve Robinson, it was a bit, basically they were manhandled. The castings would be broken through the moulds and what have you, chucked on a heap outside. This is in Sheffield, this is, by the way, I have it from the horse's mouth, or somebody who knew somebody. Anyway, and they went in there and they'd then shovel it up, scoop them up and give them a bit of a stir. They get all rusty in that, all the flake would all fall off them and stuff like that. And, because obviously they'd been bashed out, all the crustiness would fall off. And they'd be left there, and then they'd be picked up and then put onto the next pile. And eventually, several months later, they would then go to the next stage in the process where they would be machined and lapped into what we will find on the shelf. What we buy in our tool stores, such as this one here, for instance, or this one. Actually, not this one, because that was the reason for the ribs. They added the ribs to remove that process. That added months to the actual construction time required to make a hand plane. Hence, reduce the costs and have less stock. You see, in one end, at the other end, straight on the shelf, without that period in between, where the iron castings were seasoned and distressed. So, my advice would be that if you find yourself a nice Stanley, say if it's going to be you're going to be your go-to tool, try and get something that's a little bit older than 1972. I'm not saying they're not usable tools, because I've got this one here and I use that a lot. It's the one I used to take on site. It's a bit beaten up there. I could do a bit of restoration, but it is a good tool. And just like this one here, this Chinese thing, Axpin stuff, it's Chinese, India, or wherever it's made. It is a usable tool. But I'll tell you one thing, big changes were, like for instance, the weight of these tools. They all got heavier. And the castings became, I would say, a little bit less refined. Now, this record here is a lovely tool. That's got no ribs. But the Stanleys, they added the ribs. Now, if I get these scales and put them on here like that, all right? And let's weigh the difference between this Stanley Bailey and this Stanley Bailey. I can feel it now. This one's definitely heavier. So let's have a look. Okay, all right. But first of all, we're going to weigh the old Stanley Bailey. I can't remember what type it is, but it's an English one. And that is just over 2 kilos. 2 kilos and 50 grams. This one weighs, in the same place on the scales, 2 kilos, 200 grams and a bit. Remember, this one has bigger tote and a bigger knob. Okay, that wouldn't add a lot to the weight. And also, this one's also got a thicker plain iron, which definitely would add to the weight, because it's got that 3mm plain iron in there. Whereas this one's just got the 2mm plain iron. So it is considerably heavier. I suppose what we could do is remove the actual chip brake and the plain iron assembly, but also on this one, and then we can do that exact test again, weigh them again basically, and see what the difference is with the weight of the actual sole. I could take the tote and knob off, but I'm not going to do that. This one, the old Stanley Bailey jack plane, I'm going to put them in exactly the same position, without the plain iron and chip assembly and the lever cap. It weighs 1,680 grams. And the newer Stanley Bailey is going to be post 1970. I bought it second hand, so I don't know how old it is exactly. I haven't checked. And this one, oh crikey, I forgot what that one was now. Yeah, 1,680, and this one is 1,828. So it is considerably heavier than this one. Considerably heavier, really, considering the size, the percentage of its actual weight. And that's because all these extra bits have been added, and the actual castings were thicker as well. You see, because they didn't go through that process. And so what they did is they added the ribs, increased the weight, like these raised bits on the front and back as well, by adding more iron into it. Now, you might say, well, okay, because trying to save money, why would you add more iron? Well, the thing is, the iron was cheap. It's cheaper than waiting 2 months or longer to season and to stress the iron and allow all those tensions that are in the iron to actually just to dissipate over a period of time, because that was the point of doing the distressing and the seasoning. So if you can find, don't get me wrong, if you get hold of one of these and get it cheap enough, we'll buy one, because they're still a good tool. Only thing I say, I don't like the Bailey on the front there, because it hurts my fingers, you're using it. But the whereas this Stanley here with the Bailey on the front, the hair's smooth, and it's a really comfortable tool to use. It's really nice. There you go, I did pimp that one up a bit. So anyway, that's the reason why the Brits, the English, have a ribbed tool. It's nothing to do with that, okay? Sorry. So, if you're hell-bent not getting a ribbed tool, get yourself a smooth tool. And if you can't get a smooth English tool, get a smooth American tool. Anyway, if you want to support the channel, you can do that on Patreon, and the links are down below. But also, we're doing rewilding here in France, where we're planting 1,000 trees on 2 hectares of land. We'll be a part of that. There's a GoFundMe link down below, where you basically plant a tree on your behalf, but also I'll make a sign to go with the tree with your name on, or maybe in memory of a loved one. Anyway, it's time for me to go, so toodaloo, So toodaloo, and stop playing with your ribbed tool.